In our house, we have a list called the SAD ice cream list. It all started because in the particular package of ice cream cones that we've purchased for it's usually a weekly Saturday night ice cream treat. There are 3 caramel ice cream cones, and they are the favorite. And there are 4 people who want to have caramel ice cream cones. And so it was the dad's job to put together a list which identified who the sad child was, so that the following week the same child wouldn't be sad. And I've kept track. As we go from week to week, we keep it in order of who doesn't get what they want in ice cream on any particular Saturday. This child necessary list is really a peek into humanity in general, isn't it? That we are hardwired to expect things to be fair. And if they aren't fair, it can throw us for a loop. We can feel unjustly treated. Jesus tells the story of some men who worked in a farmer's field. And there was a group who started early in the morning, and they made a deal. They said, we'll work for what was 1 day's wages, a denarius. And the farmer needed more helpers, so later in the day he got some additional helpers, and they also agreed to 1 denarius for the day. And finally it was 5 in the afternoon, and the guy's looking still for more workers to finish out the day, and he finds some. So when the day finally came to an end, it was evening, and all of the workers gathered together. The farmer, the landowner, asked those who had shown up last to come and get their wages, and he paid them a denarius, which is what he had promised them as well. And when the guys who were working all day long saw that the guys who showed up at 5 o'clock got paid the same thing that they had been promised, and then when it got around to them, they didn't get anything extra, they were upset. And the landowner says, hold on just a second here. I told you that that's what I was going to pay you. I'm not treating you unfairly. Are you upset because I'm nice? It's like, wow. That is how we feel sometimes, isn't it? We are upset when things aren't handled with precise fairness. And in a case like that, we could see ourselves being just as upset as those who got paid only a day's wage for the entire day's work, even though that's totally fair, but then someone else gets treated better than I do, and that makes me angry. Why is that? What is it about human nature that gets so upset about that? We are hardwired to be proud. We are hardwired to believe that whatever we get properly acknowledges who we are or what we do. And so we feel that if we've done a certain thing, we should earn a certain thing. And if someone else has done less than we have, we should earn more because we deserve to receive back what we've put in. We believe that we are capable and that we deserve to be paid for our actions, even by God. And we will compare ourselves to others, and if people aren't as righteous or moral as we are, we will view ourselves as clearly deserving something more than others. We can look even at salvation from the perspective of fairness. But there's a big problem with that, of course, because God's standard is, well, what is God's standard? Is the fact that you are outwardly moral, acceptable to the Lord, or does he talk about things like the inner attitudes of the heart when you lust after someone who is not your spouse, or when you are angry at someone? You maybe haven't killed anyone, but have you been frustrated at someone? Have you gossiped about, right? All of those things, they're wrong. And the fact that we imagine we could make the master happy by being a good person is only revealing the short-sightedness, really the blindfolds that we put over our face so that we don't see our own faults. That's revealed when we see God being nice to someone we feel is less worthy than we. The fact that God could embrace a sinner and assure that person that they've been forgiven. There can be a part of us that said, oh wow, like if I knew it worked that way, I would have just gone out and sinned a bunch and enjoyed that and then come in and ask for forgiveness. You see, it's from our perspective so easily about fairness. The worst thing in the world is if God treated us fairly. that would mean that every one of us would be punished forever. And when you're brought to the knees from that perspective, then all of a sudden the fact that God is gracious becomes your lifeline. If God wasn't gracious, if he wasn't good, if he didn't treat us in an undeserved way, it would be the worst ever. But to know that someone could actually treat us in a way that we don't deserve, when I realize I don't deserve anything from God, is to set my heart free. It's suddenly to be so thankful that God paid the 11th hour guy the same as he paid the guy who showed up first. That's what the kingdom of God is like. The first will be last and the last will be first. Those who think themselves as first will end up at the bottom, and those who realize how last they are, like you and me, how last we are, how undeserving. It is grace that is mind-blowing. And by God's grace, he makes us last ones first.